What the hell? Which one is it? Stop or go forward? This is a big deal. They're not at all similar. Yeah, no. You, sir, have lost my business.
Peter Griffin, father, husband, beer enthusiast, and quite possibly America's greatest natural disaster in cargo shorts. Ironically, he's not a construction worker. He's a demolition expert. Everything he touches either explodes, collapses, catches fire, or turns into rubble. The Griffin family house isn't so much a home as it is a recurring casualty in a long-running sitcom war. If this house existed in real life, the mortgage would be cheaper than the insurance. And no doubt, the insurance company would have blacklisted Peter as an act of God with a beer belly. We've all seen it. Episode after episode, Family Guy treats the Griffin house like a punching bag. Sometimes it's just a crack in the wall, a broken window, a light fixture falling from the ceiling. But other times, it's a full-on rocket strike, a collapsing foundation, a tank in the living room, or just a fire caused by Peter trying to toast a sandwich with dynamite. Which brings us to the question, how much would all of this cost if it happened in the real world? In the US, home repairs are not cheap. Replacing a roof? Several $1,000s. New windows? Around $500 each. Fire restoration? Upwards of $50,000. And that's without therapy. And we're not talking about one incident here. We're talking about 20 seasons of continuous residential carnage. So we did what no one else dared to do. We decided to calculate how much Peter Griffin has spent rebuilding his house over the years. And spoiler, the final number rivals the budget of 3 Marvel films, 2 SpaceX rocket launches, and 1 medium-sized city. And that's assuming Peter even has a job. Sometimes he works at a toy factory. Other times, he's unemployed, running a fried chicken stand, or mid-fist fight with a giant bird on his roof. Where is the money coming from? We have some theories. They live in a multiverse with a reset button. Lois secretly sells organs on the black market, or Peter owns a crypto wallet fueled by cartoon logic. But we're not here to explain cartoon physics. We're here to do something no character in the show ever does. Look at the numbers. How many times has Peter crashed through a wall? How many times has he destroyed the kitchen? How many episodes show a hole in the house so big you can see the stars through it? And how many billions of dollars have been poured into resetting that house like nothing ever happened? We combed through episodes, researched real-world repair costs in Rhode Island, factored in furniture, appliances, materials, labor, and yes, even dumpster rental fees. And now, we're finally ready to answer the one question nobody asked, but everybody should. How much does it cost to live in a house? When your dad is Peter Griffin, like any great disaster, it all started small. Season 1 of Family Guy isn't yet the era of explosive mayhem and cinematic-level destruction. It's the beginning, where the signs are subtle, but the message is clear. The Griffin house is already a contractor's worst nightmare. On the surface, everything seems fine. The family argues, laughs, eats dinner. But look closer, and you'll notice the early signs of chaos, both metaphorical and very, very literal. From the very first episodes, Peter shows a special kind of relationship with the objects around him. He doesn't just break things accidentally, he does it with passion. He dances through furniture, punches through windows in fits of rage, and crashes through the floor because he thinks it's funny. In Death Has a Shadow, the very first episode, Peter ends up destroying half the house over unemployment benefits. Bureaucracy fail? Maybe. Structural damage? Definitely. And it comes with a price tag in the tens of thousands. In Mind Over Murder, Peter builds a bar in the basement. Sounds fun until the drunken chaos kicks in. Brawls, broken walls, fried wiring, and damaged support beams. One night of poor decisions equals roughly $30,000 in damage, not including the cost of the disco ball. In Brian, Portrait of a Dog, Peter's genius idea to move heavy furniture through a second-floor window, spoiler, doesn't end well. Smashed window? Of course. Shattered shutters? Naturally. Graffiti on the living room walls? Somehow, yes. And does anyone ever fix it? Nope. Next episode, the house is magically restored, like it's running on sitcom insurance. Let's estimate total damages for Season 1 at around $100,000 to $150,000, factoring in broken windows, $5,000, partial roof collapse, $25,000, furniture damage, $15,000, appliance replacements, $10,000, cosmetic repairs and repainting, $30,000, and of course invisible costs like rewiring, plumbing, and cleaning up after Peter's indoor lawnmower races. The key takeaway? For Peter, this isn't a crisis. It's a lifestyle. He doesn't feel guilty. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't call a contractor. Because in the Griffin household, everything resets. Or, as the writers would say, it's funny how the house just magically fixes itself, huh? But if this took place in real-life America, the Griffins would have had their house repossessed. Peter would be in prison for reckless endangerment, and the show would be called Family Eviction. If season 1 gave us a few cracks in the drywall, the later seasons are Peter Griffin yelling, "Cracks? That's adorable, let's go full catastrophe." At some point, the damage went from accidental slapstick to a full-blown genre within the show. Peter doesn't just break stuff anymore, he stages local-scale disasters in his own living room. What started as a few $1,000s in damages now ballooned into millions. Episode Da Boom. The nuclear apocalypse. Forget broken drywall. This is the full obliteration of the Griffin house by nuclear blast. Why? Peter thinks the Y2K bug is real. Hoards supplies, buys a generator, builds a bunker. And then boom. The house is completely vaporized. Rebuilding a home from scratch in suburban Rhode Island? Around $400,000 to $700,000. And that's for a standard house. The Griffin's home? 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, basement, garage, yard, and yes, a purple roof. It all has to be replaced. And since the family seems to reappear in a brand new house with no explanation, we're left assuming one of 3 things. Lois paid for it. Cartoon logic reset reality. Or Peter made a deal with Satan again. Episode Petarded. Indoor water park chaos. After Peter is declared legally mentally disabled, he uses his new status to do whatever he wants, including installing a water slide inside the house.
Brian, check it out. I made a water slide in the house. Fuck! Fucking cut! Fuck! Ow!
I'm not going to call the hospital because you won't learn anything if I do.
No permits, no structure, just enthusiasm and disaster. End result? Broken beams, burst pipes, massive water damage, electrical shorts. Estimated repair cost, $85,000 to $120,000. Not counting Lois's emotional trauma from having to scrub ceiling mildew caused by boat traffic in the hallway. Episode Blind Ambition. The chicken fight that leveled a home. Ah yes, the iconic Peter versus giant chicken sequence. 2 grown beings brawling with the force of 2 bulldozers and the logic of a fever dream. Over the course of several minutes, they annihilate the Griffin house. Walls gone, windows shattered. The roof is a memory. What's left? Smoke, rubble, and Lois holding a mortgage payment in one hand and her sanity in the other. Estimated damage? Full demolition and rebuild, $500,000. Interior replacement. Appliances? Backyard fence. The chicken went through it. Backwards. Plus $100,000. Episode The Juice is Loose. The blimp incident. In one of his most chaotic ideas, Peter decides to pilot a blimp. Naturally, he crashes it into his own roof. Roof collapses. Upstairs bathroom destroyed. Gas line ruptured. Also, someone has to pay for the blimp. Real-world costs? Home repair, $300,000 plus. Blimp damage, $500,000 plus. FAA fines and environmental penalties? Total? Easily $1 million plus, not including Peter's jail time, which of course never happens. And that's just the beginning. Let's not forget, when Peter fired a harpoon through the wall trying to kill a mosquito, when he dropped a car through the ceiling, when he flooded the house installing a hot tub in the bathroom, when he built a fireman's pole in the master bedroom, just because it looked cool. Each of these episodes easily racks up $50,000 to $250,000 in damage. And they're not exceptions, they're just Tuesday and Quahog. Conclusion. If season 1 had wear and tear, the later seasons are a structural genocide. Peter isn't just a homeowner. He's an agent of chaos disguised as a dad. If you've ever dealt with home repairs, you know one thing. Insurance isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline. Roof leaking? Insurance. Burst pipe? Insurance. Neighbor crashes into your fence? Insurance. Peter Griffin crashes a blimp into his own living room, then drops a car through the ceiling? Lol, no. Let's be honest. If Peter ever tried to get home insurance, his application would be rejected by the second letter of his last name. Insurance companies know how to Google. And if they saw the Griffin family's claim history from the past 20 years, they'd just close their laptops and move to Belize. Why no company would touch them? Insurance companies work on a simple principle. More risk equals a higher premium. But if the risk is uncalculable, you don't get a premium. you get blacklisted. Now let's look at Peter's risk profile. Chronic negligence, repeated structural damage, explosions and property destruction, hijacking aircraft, ongoing fights with giant chickens that end with house collapse, and absolutely zero sense of consequence. That's not high risk. That's an actuarial nightmare in cargo shorts. No insurer, not even the sketchy ones who advertise on late-night TV, would cover a man who once caused a blackout trying to microwave a burrito with a car battery. And if they do have insurance, then who's paying for it? Peter's job status changes more than Meg's voice actors. Lois doesn't work. Chris is in school. Meg is a financial liability. That leaves Brian, who spends his money on wine and being wrong online. Let's say they somehow have coverage. Average home insurance in Rhode Island? Around $1,800 per year. But if your house collapses every 3 episodes, has 12 plus claims per season, and you haven't paid a full bill in a decade, your premium would cost more than your mortgage, or they'd just straight up cancel your policy. Denial of claims, a matter of policy. Even if we imagine they do have a policy, insurance companies aren't obligated to pay out if the damage is caused by intentional actions. You violated basic safety standards, or Peter decided to use the dishwasher as a jet engine. Take the water slide incident in Petarded. An insurer would respond, you personally installed illegal equipment, flooded the home, and created an electrical hazard. That's not covered. Also, stop calling us. Red flag insurance versus reality. Not compatible. In real-world terms, if Peter existed, he'd lose homeownership rights, be banned from purchasing any form of insurance, owe millions out of pocket, or most likely, be prosecuted for insurance fraud. But in the animated world, everything resets. The house is spotless next episode, like nothing happened. So either the writers hit Control+Z, time loops every Sunday at 8 p.m., or the Griffins have an insurance rep who's never watched Family Guy. Peter doesn't have insurance. Not normal, not magical. He has audacity, cartoon invincibility, and a team of writers who treat every episode like a factory reset. And we, the viewers, are left wondering, how are they not bankrupt? If there were an award for annual architectural destruction, Peter Griffin would win it every year since the late 90s. In this section, we break down the 5 most catastrophic episodes. The moments when the Griffin house took such a beating that any real-world contractor would have thrown down their clipboard and screamed, I'm done, I'm opening a flower shop. Each case is a mini-apocalypse, or not so mini. 5. No Meals on Wheels, turning the house into a restaurant. Peter decides that if he likes food, he should run a restaurant from his house. Genius. He brings in equipment, sets up tables, and somehow ends up hosting a full gang of bikers. Real ones. With beards, beer, and disregard for drywall. They throw parties, trash the place, graffiti the walls, and start fights in the hallway. Damage estimate. Wall repairs and repainting, $15,000. Furniture replacements, $10,000. Electrical damage from basement concert, $8,000. Kitchen floor ruined, $7,000. Cleaning after biker shenanigans, $5,000. Total, around $45,000, not including Lois's mental health bill. 4. The Splendid Source. Explosion caused by a dirty joke. Peter tracks down the origin of all dirty jokes and, naturally, blows up his own house in the process. We're talking full wall collapse, fire, roof damage because of a joke. Cost of facade and roof rebuild, $150,000. Add in interior replacement, appliances, and rewiring. Rough estimate, $220,000. 3. Big Fat. Jungle living. Indoors. After a traumatic trip, Peter decides he's a wild animal now. He builds a nest out of furniture, lights campfires in the living room, and hunts food in the kitchen. Basically, he turns the house into a nature documentary, one produced by FEMA. Smoke damage, $25,000. Furniture loss, $12,000. Floor repairs, $10,000. Deep cleaning and sanitizing, $8,000. New fridge, he torched the old one, $3,000. Total, $58,000 and no 911 calls somehow. 2. The Tan Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Tanning lamp disaster. Peter wants the perfect tan, so he sets up industrial UV lights and even tears open the roof for sun access. He ends up burning a hole in the ceiling, melting wallpaper, and setting the bathroom on fire. Roof replacement, $18,000. Smoke extraction and ventilation, $7,000. Bathroom repairs, $10,000. Electrical rewiring, $5,000. Estimated cost, $40,000 plus. And probably a dermatologist bill if we're being realistic. Yagilimov. The house ages to death. This one's the crown jewel. Thanks to time reversing itself, the Griffin house begins aging in reverse, peeling wallpaper, rotting wood, busted plumbing, cracking glass. Eventually, it literally disintegrates. Not metaphorically, we watch it crumble into dust. Full reconstruction from zero, $500,000. Wiring, plumbing, drywall, $100,000. Furniture, appliances, interior, $80,000. Demolition and cleanup, $20,000. Grand total, approximately $700,000. And honestly, in the real world, they just bulldoze it and leave a sign. Here stood a house until Peter happened. These are just 5 examples. There are dozens more. And if this was happening in reality, Peter wouldn't just be bankrupt. He'd be a case study in every insurance company training seminar across the country. Up to this point, we've been laughing. Peter's burned bathrooms, exploded kitchens, flooded hallways, crashed blimps into roofs. All hilarious. But now let's set the cartoon logic aside and ask, what if this all had to be paid for in real money? Let's imagine the Griffin house is a normal suburban home in Providence, Rhode Island. 2 floors, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a garage, a basement, and a front lawn. And every bit of destruction has a very real price tag. The base cost of the home, average cost to build a house in Rhode Island, about $200 to $250 per square foot. Griffin home size, roughly 2,000 square feet. That's $400,000 to $500,000 to build the home from scratch. And that's before you add appliances, furniture, landscaping, or the cost of reversing whatever Peter's done to it this week. Real-life repair costs. When Peter sets the bathroom on fire, that's not just some paint. It's plumbing, $5,000 to $10,000. Electrical, $3,000. Wall and tile replacement, $7,000. Smoke cleanup and ventilation, $2,500. Repainting, $1,500. Total, approximately $19,000 for one oops. And Peter has 2 oopses per week. That's easily $150,000 per month in damage. A house where contractors never rest. As of now, Family Guy has over 400 episodes. Let's say in 100 of them, Peter causes major structural damage. If each incident averages between $50,000 and $250,000, the total damage would range from $5 million to $25 million. That's not a joke. That's a class action lawsuit waiting to happen. Additional costs. Now let's add the extras. Furniture, smashed regularly, approximately $100,000. Appliances, replaced constantly, approximately $80,000. Windows and doors, thanks, giant chicken, approximately $70,000. Landscaping and facade, destroyed weekly, approximately $50,000. Basement repairs, after turning it into a bar, zoo, or casino, approximately $30,000. That's an extra $330,000. And we're being very generous. Annual operating cost of living like Peter. Peter's destructive lifestyle would cost repairs $500,000 plus per year. Property tax, approximately 1.6% of $500,000. Approximately $8,000 per year. Home insurance, if any insurer was foolish enough. Approximately $10,000 plus. Code violation fines up to $50,000 per year. Lawsuits from neighbors, chicken-related damages, etc. Immeasurable. Total, over $600,000 per year, not counting Lois's therapy bills. All in all, the total long-term cost of Griffin home destruction easily sits between $15 million and $30 million. Every step Peter takes is worth more than a surgeon's annual salary. And he doesn't pay a dime, because this is Family Guy. And in Peter Griffin's universe, reality is the one footing the bill. So we've crunched the numbers, millions in damages, broken walls, fires, explosions. But now the real question, what if Peter Griffin actually had to pay for everything with his own money? Short answer, he couldn't afford even one episode. Long answer, buckle up. This is financial doom in cartoon form. Where does Peter even work? Peter is, let's say, professionally flexible. One week he works at the Pawtucket Brewery. The next he's a fisherman, then a knight, a priest, a Renaissance fair turkey leg vendor. But most consistently he's shown working at the Pawtucket Brewery, a semi-stable blue-collar job. The average salary for a brewery worker in the US is about $40,000 per year. Subtract taxes, beer, legal fees, and spontaneous purchases like a tank. Peter maybe nets $25,000 to $30,000 per year. Peter vs. one episode's damage. Let's say the average episode with serious damage costs $150,000. Divide that by his annual net income of $30,000, and you get 5 full years of work, with zero spending on food, bills, transportation, or even pants. That's 5 years of labor to pay for a single episode, like the one where he floods the basement trying to turn it into a koi pond using gasoline. What about the whole show? We've estimated total damage from the series at around $20 million. $20 million divided by $30,000 per year equals 666 years. Yes, that's not a typo. Peter would have to work 666 years to pay off the destruction he's caused. That's longer than the lifespan of Western civilization. And it's assuming he keeps the job, which he loses every 3 episodes. What if he saved half? Let's imagine Peter suddenly becomes financially responsible. He saves 50% of his income, lives off oatmeal, skips beer, and never buys another flamethrower. That gives him $15,000 a year in savings. New timeline, 1,333 years to repay it all. That's almost biblical. He'd be working for 66 generations just to repair the kitchen from season 3. A mortgage that never ends. Instead of a normal 30-year mortgage, Peter would be on a plan titled 666 Years to Restore One Home You Destroyed Yourself. For comparison, a normal American pays off their house in 25 to 30 years. Peter would take 22 times longer, and only if he never wrecked it again, which he absolutely will. Next week, he'll probably sell the roof for a chili dog. Realistically, bankruptcy or jail. In real-world terms, Peter would be bankrupt, have his home repossessed, face lawsuits, probably get arrested for fraud or negligence, and Lois would be living in a trailer behind a Costco. But this isn't reality, it's Family Guy. And in Peter's world, debt disappears with the next cutaway gag. Final verdict. If Peter actually had to pay for all the chaos he caused, he'd be working forever. He is the physical embodiment of financial irresponsibility. The IRS's worst nightmare, a walking cautionary tale. But thankfully, or terrifyingly, he lives in a cartoon, where no one pays bills, houses rebuild overnight. And the only consequence is a laugh track and a cut to black. We've calculated everything. Millions in damages, hundreds of episodes of destruction, decades of financial ruin. If Peter Griffin existed in the real world, he'd be in prison 3 times over. The house would be repossessed, and the family would be living in a tent behind a Walmart. But he's not in the real world, he's in a cartoon. And that's the magic. The Great Reset after every episode. Family Guy plays by its own rules. Every episode is a clean slate, like a video game with an infinite reset button. Peter blows up the house and next week it's good as new. Walls fixed, glass intact, carpet spotless. No continuity, no consequences, just comedy. It's like a universe where insurance adjusters are divine beings, and every crime against architecture gets forgiven in the name of punchlines. Why does this work? Because we, the audience, want it that way. We don't tune in to Family Guy for realism. We tune in to watch Peter fly a rocket through the garage, light the kitchen on fire, or try to install a waterfall in the living room. We laugh because there are no consequences. That's the heart of cartoon absurdity. Characters can live in debt, fall off roofs, nuke the backyard mall, and nothing matters. Satire dressed as nonsense. Here's the twist. Family Guy isn't just lol stuff go boom. It's also a caricature of modern American life. Peter is the average consumer drowning in credit, destroying what he owns, ignoring reality, living from one paycheck to the next cutaway gag. He spends more than he earns. He never learns. He's the perfect product of a world where debt is bigger than the furniture. Comedy of consequences, without any. In real life, destruction equals tragedy. In Family Guy, destruction equals setup for a punchline. It flips expectations. A fire breaks out. Brian shows up with a martini. A wall collapses. Cue the laugh track. We don't panic. We chuckle. It's satire of genre, of storytelling, of America itself. Look how broken everything is. And yet everyone's still laughing. That's why Peter doesn't pay. Because he is the system. A system that breaks everything. And still survives. So who does pay? Here's the final question. If not Peter, who's footing the bill? Maybe it's us, the viewers, paying in screen time. Maybe it's the studio resetting everything each week. Or maybe it's just writer magic. A universe where destruction has no cost. All for one purpose. To make us laugh. Final thought. Peter Griffin isn't just a destroyer of homes. He's a destroyer of logic. And every brick he knocks loose is another punchline built on cartoon immunity. That's his power. And that's the genius of a world where damage isn't a liability. It's a joke. So when he crashes a blimp through the roof again tomorrow, we won't be angry. We'll just ask, how much would that have cost? And start counting again.